Hello everyone and welcome back. So far we have seen in the last session what are data types in the table, that is what are the types of that data types govern the type of values that we are going to specify in the column of a table. And we concluded our discussion with the discussion about the primary keys. Okay, so primary keys are the columns which help us uniquely identify each of the rows of our table. Okay, so what is the objective of the session? So in this session we are going to create a table inside the already created database APS using OpenOffice Base, which is our DBMS software. Here one thing to note here is that don't proceed with this session until and unless you have covered session 4 of the databases, that is creating database. Okay. Now, assuming that all of us are up to date, we will proceed further. So before we create tables in OpenOffice Base, we should know the following details about the table. And these are how many columns our table is going to have with the data type of each, and which column is going to be our primary key. Okay, so we should know that the table we are going to create, what are the columns that we intend to create in the table, and what will be the data type of each of the column. And also we will decide before creating the table that which column is going to act as the primary key, that is which column is going to help us uniquely identify all the records or rows of the table. Also, one important thing to note is that first empty table with column name and type will be created. Then only values and data will be filled in the table. So it's just like let's say first a building is created or a first house is created, then only people can move inside it. If there is no house, then nobody can go inside and live in it. Okay, so similarly we are first going to create an empty table with the names of the columns and the data types associated with each of the columns. And then when this table is created, then only we are going to fill in the values in each of the cells of the table, or we are going to generate rows. Okay, and this table will be going inside the database. So this will help us organize our database or data inside our database. So in this we already have our existing database known as APS we had already created. Just to show you, we'll see that we had saved it on the desktop, so it is there. Okay, so in this already existing database that we created, we'll use the same database and we will inside it we are going to fill the tables or organize our data in the form of tables. So let us open this empty database that we created in session 4. So we'll again go back to our RDBMS software, OpenOffice Base. We are going to open it. So because we are not going to create a new database, we are going to open an existing database file. Okay, so because our database is already existing, so we will select the appropriate radio button inside that in front of that option. Now see, if your database that you used was a recent one, it will automatically show here or even in the drop down. Okay, so that is one of the ways of opening. Else you can directly click on that open option. It will ask you to select the location where your database is located. You can go to your desktop. Okay, once you go to your desktop, you will see again on the desktop your already created database is existing, which is here. Okay, so there are two ways. Either if you see in the list your recent database, you can open there, or you can go to the location and you can select it and you can press on open. So you will see your database has opened. Okay, so this is your container. Inside this only we are going to organize all the data in the form of tables. So today we are going to see how we are going to fill this empty container, that is the empty database APS, okay, so, with the tables. So you can see here, if you go on the left pane, here the tables are there. If you click on that, you will see under the list of tables, there are no tables existing. Okay, so we are going to create the table. So how to create the table? Observe very carefully. On the top, on the menu bar, you will see tools. Click on tools, and then you will see one option in the drop down menu, SQL. Okay, hope each one of us remember that SQL is the language using which we are going to talk to our RDBMS software, that is OpenOffice base, right? Okay, so this is structured query language. So we are going to select that one, and then we are going to give instructions using the syntax or the sentences used in SQL, and then our database is going to understand our instructions and going to act accordingly. So let us see. We'll click on it. You will see one window appearing. So it is the place where you can see the cursor blinking. It is the place where you are going to write your command to create table. Okay, so we have already seen the structure of our table. Okay, that is, it is going to have your columns which will be just like this. This is a rough draft. Okay, you can have as many rows entry as possible. So this is exactly what we are going to feed in our system. So what are the columns? Admission number, name, class, section, percentage, city, and DOB. And what will be the data type of each? Let me write. And also which column will be acting as the primary key, which will be unique, that is admission number. All other fields can be repeated. Okay, so primary key I'm going to mark in sort of orange. Okay, and what will be the data type here? Let's take black for indicating data type. Admission number, you can see, should be integers. Okay, what should be name? Name is going to have English like words or sentence, you can say, and you will be using the characters of English alphabet. So name will be having either char or varchar. So we are going to use varchar. Okay, what about class? Class also, you can see they are integer values. We'll use integers, int. What about section? Section is also having the alphabets. Okay, so it can also be char or varchar. We are going to use varchar. Okay, what about percentage? Percentage column will have the data which belongs to the category of number having decimal points. Therefore, it will be float. What about city? Again, English like words, so varchar. And we have seen for dates, mentioning dates in the column, we have another data type for that column we will specify, that is date itself. Okay, now having understood that, let us create our table. Okay, so we are going to write certain commands. Okay, so I'm not going to type in, I have already written it in my text notepad. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. So we'll also understand what that means, what the syntax means. I'll go back to the software, RDBMS, and in the command column, I'll paste it. Okay, so this is the command that you are going to write. So this is SQL syntax. Using this is the sentences. This is how you are going to write the sentences or communicate with your RDBMS using the syntax of SQL or structured query language. So these are the sentences, and these are how you are going to phrase your instructions for creating table and using the SQL language. So RDBMS is going to understand this thing. Okay, so you can see here what we are telling is our RDBMS to create a table, you can see it starts with create table students. So we are telling here RDBMS to create a table known as students. Okay. And then create table students, and then we open a bracket. Okay, you can see here a bracket is opening and a closing bracket. Okay, inside it we are going to write, see, remember we are just creating the structure, that is the house, empty table, along with what are the columns that are going to be present in that table. So we have said a table is to be created which will be named known as students, and it will have columns known as admission number, name, grade. Grade, I have used word grade for class. Okay, so you can use class here also, no problem. So grade, then section. So I have used the shortened form SEC, section. Okay, then percent, then city, then DOB. So you can see that it matches our structure or the columns of the table that we had drawn on rough. Okay. Also, along with that, just next to it, we are specifying the data type. We are saying admission number. If you see this, admission number is to be of type int, integer, and also it is going to be the primary key. Okay, if you can see that we have chosen admission number to be primary key, and we are also saying that you are only going to allow integer values inside your column admission number. Okay, so we are also mentioning the data type. Then second, we are each column should be separated by comma. So after primary key we write comma. Next is name. Name is to be of char or varchar. We have chosen varchar, and inside bracket, remember we mentioned size. So that specifies that name column will only allow English like words which can have at max of 30 characters. Of course you can give less than that. It's not necessary all the names should be of 30 characters, but that means it should be at max. The names number of characters including spaces in your names should not exceed 30. Next is grade. Grade is your class. So grade will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is going to be integer. So I have written int here, separated by comma. Next column that I am saying that there should be in the table known as students is percent. Percent is going to store float value, that is number with decimal points. And city again varchar. I am allowing at max the length of the city should not exceed 25. Then date of birth, which will be of type date itself. So we can see we have given the name of the table, and also we are saying specifying the name of the column along with its data types, and whichever column has to be mentioned as primary key, we have written primary key there. Okay. So once you have written this command and you think you have mentioned all the columns correctly along with the data type, then you have to press the button execute. And if it is correct, let us see what happens. The moment I executed, and there was no error in the language, SQL language here that we mentioned in this command to execute area, in the status you can see command successfully executed. That means our instruction to the computer, this RDBMS software, that is OpenOffice base, was very clear to it. It understood and it obeyed it successfully. Okay. Once we are done with that, let us close it. But now the question is, the table's entry we cannot see. It's still empty. So what happened? It said we created, but where is the table? So it has been created, but it is not reflected here. In order to show the table, you have to refresh it. Okay, so go to view and click on refresh tables. Now you will see the table has come up. Okay, students. In order to see whether the table has been created, the empty table, there are two ways. Either you double click on this name, or you can right click on it and select open. Now you can see there is no entry, okay, and the table with the headers, okay, that is the name of the columns, have been created. And like we have said, it's going to only allow the type of data that we have mentioned in the table creation definition. Okay, so admission number cannot have you can say varchar type of data, that is numbers, that is values having alphabets. Okay, so all the columns are going to obey that particular restriction of the data type imposed on each or associated with each of the column names while creating the tables. Okay, so we can see that the table has been created. Okay, so now the thing is, next step is how to you can say fill in the values, because now house has been created, people have to come inside. That means table has been created with the name of the columns, but the values need to be filled here, 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 and all the places, and we can have as many rows as we want. So in the next session, we are going to see how to fill in the table that we have created in our database APS. So now APS is no more empty, we have the table. So let's say you want to create another table inside the same database, let's say teachers. Then what we are going to do is, we are again going to go to the tools, SQL, and then we are going to write the commands for creating the layout of the teachers table. And then when you close it and when you come back to view and refresh it, you will see the table teachers also appearing in the list. So you can see it is just like a container containing all the related tables of that organization APS. So this layout is, or the container or the database APS is no more empty, it is having our first table. So next session we are going to see how to fill in the values in the table as per the data type mentioned in each of the columns.